So our next presenter is Fadya Nazirkhan. She is the lecturer in communications, media, and PR with the University of Technology. Her presentation is entitled The Role of Media Driving Change Towards the SDGs. Fadya is an experienced multilingual professional in corporate communications and international media relations, with deep experience in the financial services sector and an extensive wealth of knowledge of African markets. She currently holds the position of university lecturer in communications in Mauritius, and as a consultant also accompanies organizations, businesses, and investors in their international expansion with strategic communications while focusing on SDG goals. Fadya is equally a member of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations and a registered Russian interpreter at the Supreme Court of Mauritius. One of the major international projects she has worked on is the rebranding exercise of Barclays Bank Mauritius to Absus Mauritius, a job for which she was commended. Prior to that, she was the advisor on information matters to a minister before pivoting into the communications world. Fadya worked as a journalist for the daily newspaper Le Express to the leading national daily at the time. She holds a master's degree in journalism obtained at the Southern Federal University in Russia. Fadya, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure. Yes. So, yeah, it's rather late here in Mauritius already, almost 10 p.m. But it's a privilege and an honor to be amongst you today. And I've been listening to really insightful information shared by each and every one of you. And I'm proud to be given the opportunity. I'm thankful to be given the opportunity to share my own experience and views with you tonight. So today we are going to speak about the role of media in driving change towards the SDGs. So I believe that when we are talking about media, we tend to often think of media, we make reference to the press. At least this is the case in Mauritius. When we say the media, when we are making reference to the media, we immediately think about the press. But in fact, we should take a step back and realize that the media is not just the press, it extends broader than that. In short, it is for the mass media. So now, today, as we see the media itself, the messages in the media are generally in the form of news. True, like we are talking about actual information or information about events that have just happened. It could be in the form of ideas, thoughts, in the form of opinion writing and features, and it could be a combination of news and opinion as well. But today, with the advent of technology, media has evolved to include new media, such as social channels. There is also the rise of citizen journalism. And today, anyone, you, me, we can share information within clicks with the mass via social media channels, right? So I believe that when we are talking about the role of media in driving change towards the SDGs, I believe that we should include these aspects as well, rather than solely rely on the press to get things done. I believe that each and every one of us has a responsibility in bringing our own contribution to driving this change towards the SDGs. Then, on the other hand, of course, given the access and the amount, the volume of information, the disinformation and misinformation around us, especially on social media channels, we the public at large, citizens, have a difficulty in differentiating what is valuable information, what is misinformation, and how to embrace certain initiatives being proposed by, on social media platforms, right? So I believe that the volume of information today on social media channels is also pushing journalists to really level up. So they really have to do a job to bring quality journalism. And with regards to the SDG goals, so usually when we are talking about the SDG 16, so we are talking about transparency, we are talking about accountability, and but I believe, and I think every one of you will agree, that the media has a role to play in driving every single SDG goal through education. So how does the media really come to educate and drive these SDG goals? So I believe they have to start with work at the level of media houses itself. And when here we are really shifting from traditional journalism to sustainable journalism. So when we are talking about sustainable journalism, it is through an innovative aspect of reporting, relying on the incorporation and focus given on sustainable development goals. So the aim of sustainable journalism is unique as it places skills and knowledge on sustainable development at the very core of high quality journalism and its impact on government policies and public awareness. I'm not sure if you can share my slide, Patricia or
Ricky. I think Ricky has them. Ricky?
I will try to locate them. I did not see them, but I'll look again.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I can share that.
Yes, please. If you can just share from yourself.
Okay, let me try to share. Okay, I will just have to save that as maybe in the meantime, if you can have this my presentation. Oh, I'm not able to share because once I'm sharing my screen here, my microphone is muted systematically. So never mind, I will just continue with my explanations. So yeah, so media is indeed a meaningful stakeholder in the quest to meet the SDGs. And when we are talking about SDG 16, it is about public access to information and fundamental freedoms that cannot be achieved without independent media. And of course, the media can help to achieve all the SDG goals, whether it is gender equality, climate change, eliminating poverty, reducing inequalities, and having sustainable cities. Of course, when we are talking about media, media is really a power. We call that the fourth power, and they have the transformative power of a media because through education, by uncovering corruption and things like that, they of course can influence the government decisions and political decisions, and at the same time share adequate information with the public for them to be able to make correct decisions in their day-to-day life. And yeah, so in that sense, of course, they can hold also government to prove their accountability and their transparency to citizens, to avail them with the opportunity to access government information anytime. Right now in Mauritius, for instance, we don't have a Freedom of Information Act. So we are still struggling to have this act passed on, so journalists can really work freely, so they can have access to information normally without having to rely on a network of like I would say unofficial sources. So today what is happening in Mauritius, and I believe in many countries across the world, even for countries who have signed, they have launched, they have created the legislation, but actually in the background, are they really following that? So even if in Mauritius, for instance, we are saying we have the right to freedom of expression, but do we really have the access to information? So we don't. And currently the journalists in Mauritius, for instance, if they have to work on a paper, on an article, they have to rely on sources that they cannot, of course, cite. They have to keep that a secret, like, you know, they have to protect their sources. And often when it comes to government issues, they have difficulty in counter-verifying the information. So it becomes really tricky to uncover corruption, uncover scandals, and unless they have actual correct information or documents to prove what I'm saying. So the access to information is really tricky right now in Mauritius. I know that this is the same case in many countries. And actually, we had a judge here who did a report requesting that we pass a law on the freedom of access to information, but it's still pending, and it's been some years already. And you will see that there is political interference, because the government in place maybe wouldn't want journalists to have access to every type of information. And at the same time, the opposition, sometimes they don't want that to happen as well, because if tomorrow they form the government, they will be accountable. I mean, they will have to work in complete transparency. So we have this barrier to like the barrier as access to information. So what happens is we are always, we are a small country, we're a very small country, 1.2 million people, and we don't have so many media houses here. And just recently we have been hearing things like drug trafficking happening in Mauritius, and like the government journalists are writing about the implication of government officials. But then since we don't have access to official documents, this becomes very hard to prove, which makes it difficult to know, I mean, for the layperson, for the citizen, whether the information being published in the news are counter-verified or not. So you can, like not later than yesterday, we had an incident here where the police was had called the chief editor-in-chief of a newspaper because of a publication. So we are still along those I would say conflicting relationship. We have a conflicting relationship with the government. I mean, there is this conflicting relationship between the press and the government because of this absence of transparency in which we are operating, unfortunately. So I believe that once countries have this such laws established, access to information would become really systematic. It would be a systematic move, and journalists would really be able to provide quality journalism. So once they have this access to information, of course, they will be able to examine and to really dig deep into issues pertaining to all the different the different SDGs goals that we have, and really raise alarms when needed. So right now, unfortunately, it's not happening right now in Mauritius, even though some journalists will have certain topics. It comes like a recurrent topic in the media, for instance, like climate change, things like that, but it just stops there. So things are not really progressing on that side, even if as a country, we are saying that we are aiming towards the achieving the SDG goals. But how do you achieve that when the media doesn't have the right tools to do their work? So even for the citizens, they don't have access to all the information. So how do they get the proper information? How do they get the proper education? And proper information, I mean, about the different issues happening amidst them. Poverty, how do they how do they help to eradicate poverty? Climate change, so how do they go about it? So if the media itself is not able to provide accurate information, the citizen himself stays in the dark. And for me, the way forward would be to really encourage countries, be it in Mauritius or other countries, not to just create the legislations, but to work together towards really towards implementation of these legislations, to give access to information, to allow the media really drive, really highlight pinpoints when needed, and to take criticism in a constructive manner for the progress of each and every one. So I believe it should be a work not done in silo. It should be a job done with the government, with ONGs, and with other stakeholders. So like together, it is a teamwork. It's not done. We are not going to achieve the SDG goals in silo if everyone is not knowing what the other one is doing. So we have to work as a team. And when we are working as a team in country, then it is about the other countries. We can work together. I mean, neighboring countries can work together. Africa can work together. So it's not just me or you, it's everyone. So that's it for me. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer your question. Unfortunately, I couldn't see my all my slides. I couldn't go through my slide as prepared, but I hope that I have given you my views on that.
Thank you, Fadya, for that very, very interesting presentation and showing really the importance of having media and having the correct information put out there, especially in a world of today where we have so much misinformation across social media pages and persons just actually running with them instead of doing their due respect of research and making sure that, you know, this is exactly what it is, rather than this is what I'm seeing and this is what I'm going to spread. So it's really, you know, important that we do have the media work hand in hand with our countries and with the normal layman on the road, and especially the intertwine between the countries to connect us. So thank you once more again for that really thoughtful presentation. Any questions for Fadya, please place within the Q&A chat. Remember, once more again, you're not able to unmute yourself to speak. Patricia, any words from you for
I was thinking, okay, just to say thank you, Fadya. I know where you're coming from in terms of the much work you're doing in Mauritius is quite significant, and I just think this is brilliant in terms of what you're doing. So really brilliant, and thank you so much for this amazing work you've done in terms of the presentation. I'm sure we're going to do more work because media is really important, and concerning the work we're going to plan in Mauritius, this is just so important for one of the things we're taking forward. So thank you so much. So are we taking forward now, Julius, please?
Yeah, Agnes had a quick question, and then Julius wants.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure, but we need to. While that is going on, can we just get Julius' slides or something so that we can?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We're taking too much time, really.
Yes, I will be very quick. Thank you so much, Fadya. You raised a very important challenge, which is having to protect sources of information or informants. At the same time, their validity cannot be checked, right? So what is your personal recommendation? What tips can you share about that? How can we ensure that our sources that we are protecting are also truthful in the absence of the ability to verify them? Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes, for your question. In fact, this is what I'm telling all my students. So the very basic of journalism is to be able to counter verify your information. And what my own, when I started as a journalist back then, so what my own editor-in-chief advised me, as a journalist, we may have access to volumes of information. And he told me, if you cannot take the matter to court, it means you don't have all the evidence to be able to prove what you're saying in court, don't write it. So you have to keep proof of whatever you are doing. And it could be a recording, it could be notes taken, it could be documents that you save. You have to save that down the pipeline. Me as a journalist, I got a criminal defamation case on me and civil defamation case. So luckily I was very meticulous. I had all my documents in place. And of course there was nothing went forward, right? And I believe that this is where journalists demarcate themselves from citizen journalists, because anyone could be a citizen journalist. You just have to be at a particular place at the right moment, the right time. You know, you take your mobile phone, you just capture something and you're sharing right away on the social media. But this is not journalism. I mean, you could, while taking a picture, you could, you don't really know what is happening. So for the journalist, there is the background work that has to be done. So what is the context of things happening? Is this really this information that he or she is receiving genuine? How does giving you some leads. So you have to try to get the maximum amount of information. Of person is a human being. He or she is always biased. And this is not true when we say journalists have to remain like impartial. We are human beings. We cannot remain impartial. Deep inside us, we take sides. And even when our sources are giving us information, we can be tempted to believe or not believe them, or go against or go with them. So as a journalist, I would tell people to stick to facts. You have to stick to facts. So how do you get the facts? Whether your sources, for instance, if it is a police case, is there any official statement done at the police station? Then you can start working on that. You interview people. So it's just not one-sided. And also when you're talking to people, you have to know your source. Okay, is this person an expert in the field? Is that person reliable? You know, if I'm talking about I'm going to write an article about climate change. I'm not going just to interview people on the street, right? I have to talk to an expert. So that person, of course, I have to do a background work as well before even getting information and publishing that to the public. We have a responsibility, right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.